So Trea Cotton, I appreciate
Yes,
you
sir.
being here today, being a part of this and showing up, letting me dive into your story and you being willing to share that with the audience. To start off, I'm gonna go ahead and give you a little bit of an introduction. So I'll run through some highlights of who you are so the audience gets to know a little bit about you before we get into the discussion. Trey, the fit artist Cotton, you're the founder, online fitness coach, and trainer of Next World Fitness. You specialize in helping artists and entertainers, particularly touring artists, musicians, actors, models, and driven creatives to sculpt their fit masterpieces through personalized online nutrition, fitness coaching programs. Your fitness roots and athletic inspiration were inspired by your father, an avid gym goer who trained in bodybuilding format. You developed a passion for fitness early on, and your journey has now spanned 20 years of personal fitness and over a decade as a fitness coach and trainer. And you're continuing to evolve his methods and expertise. You're an entrepreneurial innovator. You successfully transitioned from traditional in-person coaching to building a thriving online fitness business, overcoming challenges to redefine how fitness is delivered in the digital age. Your creative and tailored training methods, known for a unique approach which combines a fun, engaging hit style workouts with fitness games and challenges to keep clients motivated. You also offer strength and bodybuilding programs tailored to fit each client's goals, situation, gym access, and needs. Through your methods, clients can achieve transformative results, including fat loss, muscle strengthening, enhanced energy and performance optimization, helping them excel both on and off the stage. You're revolutionizing online fitness by what you're doing by being committed to bridging the gap between in-person and online coaching, delivering an unparalleled online fitness experience that replicates the energy and feel of the gym and the virtual space while accommodating predictable schedules and high energy demands of artists and entrepreneurs. You're a community builder and motivator through social media, through your Fit Masterpiece Collabs network, and your upcoming initiatives. You're fostering a supportive, inspiring community that prioritizes health, creativity, connection, collaboration, and career growth. Your Fit Masterpiece Collabs network is more than a fitness platform. It's a hub where like-minded creatives connect, share, and inspire each other, building a thriving community for health and artistry. With that information, again, I want to thank you for being here, Trey. Um,
Happy to be here, man.
it's a pleasure to speak with you. And what I like to do is just start off doing a kind of a timeline, overall timeline.
Okay.
So if you could just give us a brief but full picture view of where you grew up, what it was like for Trey as a kid.
Okay, cool. I'm born and raised from Drew, Mississippi, and I mostly grew up, like I said, as a in a sense country kid in the city part of the country. Growing up mostly around my mom's side of folks, which my grandmom, she's a preacher and so forth. So and then passed it off to her son. He's a preacher, so grew up under her, and then him growing up in the church. So a lot of my stuff is mostly in the church background, constantly going to churches and so forth, and choir rehearsal with my mom and everything because she was singing as a young child herself as well with my grandmama. They go around singing at houses and stuff like that. That's
Yeah,
what they was doing when she was growing up. So just growing up, getting that type of experience for us, the creativity of everything, for us singing and stuff like that, uncles and cousins learning how to play instrument from ear. And they don't really know how to read notes, but they can really play real good just by hearing things and so forth.
Yeah.
So that kind of background, but raised with, like I said again, with my mom and dad and so forth. He taking me for sports wise, playing basketball and going to the gym as you had mentioned earlier and so forth. Yeah, like I said, I grew up, like I said, just normal. Child, two parent, happy kid, love sports, love playing with my cousins and everything. So I come from a big family on both sides.
Okay.
So having for his friends, I had friends too, but as well as cousins, stuff like that. So it was never a boring time, a boring day. If I'm not at home, I'm over one of my cousins' house. Or if I'm at home, I'm with my friend.
Yeah.
So that kind of lifestyle and everything as well. Pretty good kid in school and everything, A and B student and everything. I'm thinking, hopefully, if I'm explaining where I've come from, that answer your question.
Yeah, yeah, absolutely.
Okay.
Absolutely. And I think a lot of that too plays into mentality as
Mhm.
well. When you're in an environment where you got a close knit family and you got the support of the family, that helps the mindset to flourish a little bit. I think that it, just the support in and of that I see in creatives or different fields, if you have the support of the family, then a lot of times the childhood isn't that hard. Now, you may not always have a lot of money here and there or whatever, but always having family seems to support those types of scenarios where it doesn't seem like you're at a real lack type of situation. With that, I would say probably from what I'm gathering is that elementary school was fairly smooth for you.
Yeah.
And then how was it like transitioning from elementary into junior high? Was there a big difference or did you experience any things that may have changed the way that you viewed being in school?
No, like I said, I was pretty much an A and B student, so pretty much grew. Like I said, it just really transitioned to that. I'm the student that liked it, going to school in a sense in
Okay.
certain aspects or whatever.
Yeah,
So
yeah.
it wasn't that big of a jump or anything like me, other than it just you with there, you're around older people and all that stuff like that as well. And it's a different, and then I guess you could say for all people, you're going in there, you almost at a preteen age and stuff like this. Those transformation as you start getting into your adolescence, manhood, and everything seeing, hearing, doing certain things, stuff like that. I would say that was the transformation. But for school wise, not so much
Okay.
learning things and stuff like that. I always I'm not to be braggadocious and stuff like that, but I was kind of like ahead of my time on everything for
Yeah,
us
yeah,
like academics and stuff like that.
yeah.
I remember coming from like daycare, like I was in daycare and so forth, or like Head Start. Y'all know if you ever heard of
Yep,
Head Start
yep,
before. All
yep.
right, so I was in Head Start. Mama was taught me early on before I got in Head Start. So I really to advance for Head Start. So I was me and another girl, we was teaching her name Apollonia. We was helping the teacher with the other students and everything.
Okay.
Like that's how it was with me. So
Yeah.
going from elementary to junior high, it's just another step, another level and everything from there. I can remember me being in the knowledge club and everything. So I like I said, just found it more of what I was doing from the start of elementary, like certain things, which we probably would get into later for my creativity aspect or whatever, but it expounded that more as I got older into
Okay.
more school stuff like that.
Yeah, yeah. I'm already seeing just based on that storyline with you being ahead of the curve, so to speak, when it comes to learning, that I would just imagine that being kind of smooth for you and you already having that perception, that information was just coming easy to you, that would potentially later on flourish into creative aspects and different things like that. Once you got into high school, is that where you started playing sports or did it start earlier?
I was in middle school when I played. I didn't finish it. Like I think I played in eighth grade, and I didn't really finish the whole year, but I played it in that time. But yeah, high school I played my 10th grade year, and then stopped after that. But I tried to go back my 12th grade year before we actually moved here to Jackson and so forth.
Yeah.
But and everything I was starting to stop. And I wish when I look back at it now, I wish I would have kept at it. But yeah, but I did play in my 10th grade year.
Okay. And did you play multiple sports or is there one specific that you played?
I played basketball mostly in a power forward, center position, and so forth. But now, coaches, my friends, stuff like that, they wanted me to play football, but football was never my thing. When it always was basketball. That was what was put in my hand first as a child.
Okay.
Now, like I said, my dad, he played both sports, and from what I'm hearing, he was pretty good at both, but he chose basketball to be his go-to sport and
Right.
everything. But
Okay.
so I guess that's where it rubbed off on me on.
Sure. And again, too, I think there's different elements where sports come into play within a person's lifetime. I know I was started playing sports in middle school as well. I was playing soccer, basketball. Later on, I was playing softball, but that sports aspect, I think it gives you a different perspective for somebody who hasn't played sports. Somebody that has played sports, you start to develop a team type of mentality where you understand the dynamics of being on a team and how that has to cause you to think differently in terms of working with other people, making sure that you're supporting the other players on the team, all that type of stuff. I learned early on with the sports that I was playing was that it became a scenario was where it wasn't just an individualized type
Mhm.
situation where if you're out on the playground just playing rec ball or whatever, that's just individualized. But once you're actually on the team and start playing with a team, then you realize, okay, now this is a whole different dynamic. You're delving
Right,
into a situation where you seeing different personalities, how different
right,
people
right,
react, how they respond, how they want to
right.
support you as much as you're
Yeah.
supporting them, those types of things.
And funny you say that because that's how it was for me. I was a very big at street ball, you know what I'm saying? Playing like that's playing in my house and stuff like that. A lot of kids and other folks come and play and everything. I got real good at it, playing street ball, that is. So
Yeah,
doing it by myself and everything, getting better. Then also maybe two, maybe three people at the most, but not like a whole 5-man team. But one and then playing unorganized because then street ball is really by
yep,
instincts and what you know and so forth and
yeah,
everything.
yeah,
So so when I actually started playing like organized ball, it was like a culture shock. That and me being a little quiet and I ain't gonna say shy, but a little timid to certain things, a little around crowds and stuff like that.
yeah,
That was a big culture shock. So learning how to play organized ball and trying to get over that initial fear of crowds and stuff like that.
yeah,
That was a big thing. And I think that was a lot for me going on when everything resulted in me starting and stopping or
sure.
whatever. Yeah, but yeah, so definitely the dynamics change a whole lot. You got to learn how to do plays. You got to scrimmaging and all that stuff like that. The other ways of making wins other than what you've been doing on your own instincts, that was different for me.
Yeah. Another thing that I find interesting based off of what you're saying too is that that was a scenario where you had to learn to come out of the shell, so to speak, with
Right.
being more introverted, sitting back and probably being more cerebral in terms of always thinking and that type of thing based on the fact of what you said about being ahead of the curve in schooling. I'd imagine you're in your head quite a bit
Yeah.
thinking of different things and all that kind of stuff. So it's an interesting scenario when I'm talking to people who are in an industry where they're working with creatives or they have some creativity within themselves. There seems to be a little bit of that introversion that's always there. And I think that has to do with the fact that you're in your head, you're always thinking of different things. You're thinking of, okay, how can I do this or how can I do that? What's it like to, if I wanted to create this or I want to create that? I always see those little strings that line throughout a person's life that eventually tie into where they're at in present day. So
Okay.
that's pretty interesting as I'm seeing you talk and seeing that come out. Once you got through high school, was
Mhm.
there thought to go on to college at all, or what happened after high school?
Yeah, I actually did go to college, a JUCO, a junior college,
Okay.
yeah, at Hines, and I went there for about two and a half years, majored in graphic design. furthering the whole creativity thing, such as me being good at drawing, and then also liking computers at the time. That's
Yep.
around that time that we talking about like from the 90s to the early 2000s
Yep.
when the computers just really started booming
Yep.
and so forth. So yeah, so liking them two, I was just putting them two together and said it's like a field I can go down and pursuing because of those two things I like.
Okay. Cool. Then you mentioned drawing. When did you start drawing, and when did you realize that you could see things differently with that ability?
The second part, that's a good question. I don't really know. But
Okay. Yeah.
the first part, it's funny how I actually started drawing because I didn't really know I had the talent until I just did it.
Yeah.
It was, I would want to say maybe in middle school, maybe like
Okay.
that between eight, I'd say between eighth and ninth grade, if probably around that time. So what happened is I used my mom, like I said again, a lot of my creativity comes from my mom's side of the family and everything. She used to doodle a lot, and she's still very crafty with her hands. She can think of something and everything and create it out of thin air pretty much. She used to doodle a lot. She don't do that no more. But it was certain projects where we had to like draw something or color something and everything like that, and I always was getting her to do it.
Yeah.
Stuff like that because at the time I think I couldn't do it,
Right.
and then it came to I can't remember like how it came to be, but I just one little project I had to draw something and so forth, and I just started drawing, and it came out good, looking just what it was I had to do and so forth. And then when she found that out, she said, "Oh, you had this all the time, menu and all that stuff like that. You don't need me no more." And that's when that's when it was born then, and then it just took off from there. I just kept drawing and stuff like that without me even have to be assigned to do it. I started doing it on my own, stuff like that. Once I had an inspiration, some kind of cartoon I want to draw, and I look at it and go from there. Biggest challenges they say back then when Dragon Ball Z first came out, they were like, if you really can draw Dragon Ball Z, you pretty good. So I
Right.
took that as a challenge, and so I got actually Dragon Ball Z that I drew. I maybe was in 10th, 11th grade at the time.
Yeah.
But yeah, they were like, you can draw that, you pretty a good draw. So like, okay, cool. I'm there now.
Nice. Nice. That's cool. Did you find yourself at times, and again, this isn't everybody's storyline, but what I want to see is, did you find that being able to draw and create like that, did you find that as a way to escape or a way to not have to necessarily interact with people?
Yeah, for a time I grew up as an only child until my half sibling, my dad's child. She moved into the house and so forth.
Okay.
So from the time I was the only child. So you really got to keep yourself entertained if it's just you in the house. You know what I'm
Right.
saying?
Yeah.
So it comes from that and everything like that too, in another way of escaping. And like I said, generally I just like it was fun. I wasn't really like thinking of anything like where I had to escape from, but I just normally doing it is very relaxing and everything and soothing for me and
Right.
everything like that. And
Okay.
then challenges too. So I think I'm a person that like challenges as well.
Gotcha.
And when I'm tasked with something like that, until I get conquer it, it's still in my mind. I gotta get this until I get it right. You know what I'm saying? So maybe a little bit of perfectionism in it, and I
Okay.
think that comes with creative as
Sure.
well
Yeah.
and everything like that I'm trying to work on. But it's still gonna be there to an extent. But so I think that's what it is too as well. But like me trying to escape, I would say later on, like I would say for as drawn, because I haven't been drawn like I lately and everything. But for as writing, putting literary works and stuff like that would be I would say another way of saying escapism and everything as well, because you're putting your feelings and thoughts onto
Yeah.
paper and
Yeah.
everything. So you're articulating in a little in different way what's in your head, but you're putting it to a song or some kind of literary work, whatever it is, and
Yeah.
stuff like
Yeah.
that. So in that aspect, yes, those are some ways that to escape, but also to a way of relaxing and just easing my mind as well.
Yeah. Yeah. I absolutely relate to that type of scenario too, because I have an older sister that's a half sister, and she always lived in Tennessee. So when I was born, my parents had moved up here to Metro Detroit because of my dad was a mechanic. Because of the auto industry, he was able to come up here and find work super.
Okay.
super quick and consistently. So
Okay.
the only time I got to see my older sister was if we would go down on vacation or holidays or different things like that. And then for the first 9 years of my life, I was like that only child as well. And then my parents decided to have another child, and that was my younger sister. But
Okay.
again, there's that 9 year difference
Right.
there. So even with her being little like she was, it was still, I'm still the only child, so to speak,
Right.
but yet there's just somebody else here as well.
Right.
That's interesting in terms of the creative element of that, being an only child and being able to see that you're going to entertain yourself, so to speak. So you're going off into these different worlds with that creativity
Right.
and your mind that's entertaining and allowing you to have a in a space where some might see it as being lonely, so to speak, but not necessarily because of what you've said in terms of how your family was pretty close and there's good sized family as well. But just being an individual on your own, having these creative thoughts and being able to put it down on paper, that type of thing. It's very interesting how that plays out through a storyline of an individual and what that looks like once they get older. Because
Right.
from what I've seen, a lot of times just that initial creativity can spur other inspiration further down the line, even if it doesn't be the thing that stays consistent. It
Right.
spurs that innovation and creativity to do other things, and it potentially is less fearful for somebody to go on and do other things, different stuff like that. So you said you did about 2.5 years college doing graphic design. Once you hit that 2.5 years at JUCO, did you have intentions to potentially go on to college, university type scenario, or what was that
Yeah.
transition like?
Yeah, that was the plan until I like me being here in Mississippi for graphic design. I started couple things. One, I don't know, that was just something I thought I needed to do since I liked it to draw and computers and so forth. So I didn't really have a, that's what college was really in my mind growing up. So it was really like basketball, rapping, and
Okay.
acting and everything. So that was really in my mind to do
Okay.
and everything. But so college wasn't really on my mind. But when you getting like 17, 18, everybody talking about college and stuff like that. So I didn't really have nothing to do to really what I want to do. Okay, graphic design what might be it. And got into it and so forth. And as I told you before we had this call,
Yeah.
it was like being forced to be on the deadline to turn something in and write something that kind of took the fun out of drawing for me. But I was still gonna stick with it and so forth. And then later on, like when I one day, like once you get graduate from here, or just associate, like you really can't do nothing with that here in Mississippi. And I said, and then I was like, I really needed like a more like a bachelor's degree and everything, going to a full university. And then so the university I was gonna go to Jackson State, and like it was like some of those credits was gonna transfer. So I feel like I had to take those classes over again. So that kind
Yeah.
of dampened my resolve to do it.
Yeah.
And then also with the deadlines of drawing and stuff like that, and it wasn't really something I was passionate about in the first place. That's something I thought I needed to do.
Yeah.
And started getting like costly because it was just me financing other than me financially helped to a certain extent and then everything like that, me working and trying to do the rest and all that stuff like that got a whole lot. I have a son later on too as well. So a lot of little
Okay.
things that transgress to me just not doing it on everything.
Gotcha.
Going forward with it. Yes, sir.
Gotcha. Okay. So I heard you say that you were interested in rapping and also potentially being an actor.
Rapping,
When-
acting, and what else I said, basketball.
yeah. When did those two creative aspects, when did those pop up on your radar, so to speak? When did those hit you and be like, okay, I think might do this?
Okay, let's go with the rapping first. So rapping, I would say that we're going back to elementary. That's when my writing prowess or skills was born then, came out of sadness. That's how
Okay.
that came about. If you want me to go back into the story, that's gonna be a longer story. The acting part is shorter.
Okay. Yeah, let's start with the rap.
So
Go back to that. Start with that one.
okay,
Yeah.
all right, cool. Now it was like the person that was influential or somebody like joining around, being around was my grandma, my mom's mom.
Yeah.
And we used to live in a car apartment complex. We were about three or four doors down away from them. So I spent a lot of time over there and so forth. So there was one person, if I get in trouble, I just dart out the door, shoot
Yeah.
straight
Yeah.
over there to avoid the butt whooping and everything like that.
Yeah.
Yeah, so that was like one of those things. And then being over her house, I wasn't really a bad child. So I'm really watching TV. You give me some food, let me watch cartoon. I'm
Yeah.
content on
Yep.
everything like that. The rides I did with my grandma and my uncle, he used to drive her around and stuff like that. So remember those little things about her. But it came to a point, this is up until I was like 6 years old.
Okay.
And when she actually passed, but before that, she, like I said again, she was a preacher and so forth.
Yep.
We was at the hospital and everything. Me not, I think I don't really understand death at this time. And at one mom and cousin them they left, and she left me with grandma. She like Trey, I'm going. I'm not gonna. You gonna see, I'm not gonna be here much longer and everything. But I want you to know that don't cry for me. I'm gonna be all right. I'm going to be with the Lord. Going to be in a better place and stuff like that. She even gave me one of her last prayers too. So she prayed so long, had my hands in the air she prayed so long where I had to lay my head on a chest and so forth that she prayed so long for me
Wow.
and so forth. So that was one of her last prayers to me and so forth. Up until going to the funeral, everybody crying. But I'm walking to everybody saying, "Why y'all crying for?" Grandma said, "Don't cry," and stuff like that.
Yeah.
She said she gone to a better place and stuff like that. They were like, they crying and upset, boy, gone and everything like that and so forth. So I'm not really realizing what's going on and so forth. So fast forward, I'm like I said, I'm 6 years old when she passed and so forth. Fast forward, maybe like a couple years, and now it's starting to dawn on me. I don't see her no more. I don't. She's not in the picture and stuff like that.
Yeah.
So I don't think I knew what to do with it and so forth. My mom think that it was grief because I ended up getting into ICU shortly after that, and
Okay.
everything like that. So the doctors didn't really know what was going on with me. I had a high fever and everything like that. So I was hospitalized for a couple of days and stuff like that. And my mom think it was grief. I didn't know what to do. I ain't seen my grandma no more, so I didn't know what going on.
Yeah.
But fast forward a little bit after that. So I might be this one in elementary school. So I'm like 8, 9 at the time. So like that. So teacher used to give us writing workout stuff to do and
Yeah.
everything, and like literary works where there's a paragraph about something or a poem or something like that and everything. And most of my stuff was about her, and everything. So then teacher came to me, she said, "Oh, I see you write about your grandmama a lot, but you don't have to write just about her." And that's when I bust out the crying and tell me what I need to write about. This my feelings and all that stuff like that. But in that same teacher, she came to my mom and told her about my writing skills and stuff like that. She said he really good at writing and so forth, and she'd be excited to see where I don't know what happened to the teacher, Miss Lamax is her name, but
Okay.
she said she would be excited to see where I end up in the future and stuff like that because of that in there. But that's where it started and growing and then growing. So I started doing poems and everything from there. Even going this fast forward, give you something to laugh about. My friends, they had girlfriends and so forth. So I had good handwriting too as well. I used to charge them to write letters to their girlfriend. Whether whether in my own handwriting and from
Yeah.
my own mind. So they'll
Nice.
tell me what they thinking, and I just write from in a way, put it in some kind of poetic
Yeah.
type of field and everything,
Yeah.
and let them write to and they give it to their girlfriend. Of course, they gonna put their name and stuff on it and everything like that. But that was that. But until I started like growing up in the church and so forth, so my dad he was more of the blues, like the blues and stuff like that. My mom more. She listens to some of that, but she more gospel, so
Gospel.
everything, and everything like that.
Okay.
So I didn't hear a lot of hip hop until later. So we
Gotcha.
talking about I heard some here and there, but it wasn't nothing done until I'm maybe like 14, 15 years old when I started hearing hip hop and stuff like that. I'm like, oh, now I thought writing poems, even though I was good at it, I thought that was corny or stuff
Okay.
like that.
Yeah.
Until I started hearing hip hop, and I like, oh,
Yeah.
I can actually put this to music and everything
Right.
and so forth and everything. So I like how you can write your feelings and stuff like that, and it can be put. It's still poetic, but you put it in an art form, such as music and everything on it.
Yeah.
So that's when that was born for as me wanting to rap and stuff like that. As I started getting more entrenched into hip hop culture and everything from there. So that and going for the acting, I want to say that was maybe like middle school around that time, maybe like eighth grade, maybe even a little bit younger. In between maybe yeah, I would say maybe like fifth or sixth grade, something like that. I was in a church play
Okay.
of my uncle's church and so forth,
Yep.
acting as Joseph and so forth.
Yep.
And after I didn't really want thinking about acting until afterwards. My sister was in the play as well, and so after the play was over and everything, a lot of folks come to me and like, boy, you did real good and stuff like that and everything. And I wasn't really thinking about it until that's when
Right.
that was born. But now my sister, she like, ain't nobody told me I'm good and stuff like that. So I like, okay, they must be truthful then. You
Yeah.
know what
Yeah.
I'm saying? Stuff like that. Yeah. That's when that was born. So maybe something to it. I can do that as well. So that's when that was in short form, that's when that was born as well.
Gotcha. Gotcha. Yeah. It's fascinating to me with these stories. And this is why I'm doing what I'm doing. This podcast is to try and bring out those stories because they always have a place where everything starts to connect. And one of those types of scenarios as well is with me talking about mental health and a lot of it being based on my own personal experience with mental health and depression, anxiety, suicide attempt, those different things throughout my lifetime. I've come to be able to notice when I'm talking to other people and they describe an incident like you had where
Mhm.
you said that you ended up in the ICU hospital because the fever was so high and they couldn't figure out what was going on, but your mom thought it was just you experiencing grief. And what I find interesting, I don't know if you've ever heard of the book called The Body Keeps the Score. So within that book, it talks about how different things that you experience in your lifetime, whether it's a trauma, a death of a loved one, different things like that, the body physiologically reacts whether you do emotionally or not. The body is the one that's keeping the score of those different things that are affecting you as you go through life. And at certain points in time, if those things don't ever get addressed or they're not able to be released through crying or grieving processes and different things like that that you go through when you lose a loved one, that internally starts to create its own thing within the body. And then eventually the body's going to react and say, I can't hold this anymore. You need to pay attention what's going on here. And but I found that interesting by the fact that the doctors couldn't figure it out, but yet your mom had an understanding of what she felt was going on with you. And I would assume that would just be just her observations of how you're reacting, what you're doing after your grandma's passing, what that looks like as you kind of running around the house and doing life and all that kind of stuff thereafter. That was a key thing that I wanted to bring out about that. The other element of that as well is the fact that you're starting to, with that emotion that's inside of you, that spurred you to start writing and expressing your emotion through that process, that creative process of writing, and either turning it into a poem, turning it into a rap song, however, just that instinct within you to start to do that allowed you to process that even further along. And then everybody else starts paying attention to that, right? You say your friends are coming to you, say, "Hey, I don't know what to say to her. Write me something down so I can give it
Right.
to her," which
Yeah.
that's beautiful from my
Right.
perspective. I see that and I'm like, "Oh my God, that's amazing
Yeah.
that you had that ability at that age to be able to take somebody else's thought of what they had a feeling for this other person and you're able to put that into a work on paper, give that back to them, and then allow them to go and get the girl or not get the girl, but at least let them know what they were feeling.
Right.
So you in that moment are being a channel, so to speak. If we want to look at it from a spiritual aspect, it's you're being that vessel, right? That's giving
Right.
that message, helping that other person express an emotion, express a feeling. That's
Uh,
another thing that I found beautiful about that.
my first ghostwriting, so to speak, so we saying spiritual.
Yeah,
Right.
yeah, absolutely, absolutely. And two, the influences of music. You say your dad was into the blues music, grandma being a minister, that you're surrounded by the gospel, the church music, that type of thing. And it's always interesting to me how those things come into play that help to start to mold our perception based off of particular styles and types of music. So it's very interesting to me when I start hearing these storylines and I'm able to pull those things out, and whether it's something that you may have realized or not, but it's just different things that I'm seeing with your storyline that let me know that you were a creative very early on and you were going about it in your own way that was beneficial to others. And one of the key things that I am trying to do with the artist recovery and being an artist lifestyle coach is I want to be able to help creatives to potentially recognize those types of things within themselves. And if they can, they've had it at one point and they may have let it go to the wayside for a while, but that doesn't ever leave. That little spark that was there back when you were a kid, that's still there. It's just a matter of how much you potentially are going to utilize it going forward. So I always want to highlight that for people so that
Right.
they see what I see
Right.
from
Uh,
an outsider's perspective.
and yeah, you hitting on all those points because, like I said, I suppress the desire to want to be rap and stuff like that because of my upbringing, growing up in the church and stuff like that. And I was kind of like thinking about what would my family say and everything like
Yeah,
that
for
with
sure.
that and stuff like that. So I battled with that for a long time.
Yeah.
But it was always in the back of my mind to do certain things I was doing. Like I even wrote a jingle for my business and so forth. And other little stuff I write here and there to a rap song and everything. Really wasn't really teaching myself how to do it and everything, but I would just do certain things like that every now and then. I used to talk to my cousin Jay all the time, and I was like, man, cuz I can just put this and everything. No, ain't nobody doing that in the rap. He said, man, you just want to rap like and everything. I'm like, yeah, I really do. So I just thought about it like, said, man, I'm just gonna go in here and do it because I couldn't really scratch it, couldn't really shake it, not scratch it. I couldn't really shake that desire to wanting to do it. So I said, let me just start doing it and see what becomes of it, and everything like that.
Right.
So now, some odd years later, now I'm getting back into it, and hopefully this year start putting some stuff out there.
Cool. Very cool. Very cool. So what after JUCO, what was the next step? Did you just start working or what did that look like at
Yeah.
that point?
So after that I'm what, like maybe what I mean 20, 21 at the time, something like
Right?
that.
Yeah.
And yeah, so pretty much just working for the next eight or so years and stuff like that and everything. So I went to working at Pizza Hut, working
Yeah.
at from Pizza Hut to Sears, from Sears to Levi's, working at a distribution plant for Levi's and so forth. And then from there it came to be a little odd end jobs in between it. But then from there, I actually started going into what I'm doing now for is fitness coaching and training. So a little bit after the Sears was my last like job I was doing for is working a 9 to 5 and
Okay.
everything from there.
Gotcha. And when you were working with Sears, were you just a salesperson or were you doing something similar to what
Uh,
you're doing at Levi's?
it's a receiving MPU clerk. I think that's the
Okay.
name of the role.
Okay.
So
So
basically
a little
like
bit similar.
Yeah, a little bit similar. So it'll be like certain things come, we'll load up trucks and stuff like, or that's take stuff from the trucks and everything, and then put it into stock for the in the stores and stuff like that. And then also too, if people got something like they got a TV or something like that and everything, we load it up into people's cars and stuff like that.
Yeah.
So that's pretty much what we were doing.
Okay. All right, cool. And again, I'm always I'm looking at different things and I want to pull out elements of that I believe potentially play into what you're doing now. So
Right.
with that shipping and receiving type stuff that you're having to do with Levi's in the distribution center and
Mhm.
also too with Sears, you're having to learn processes. So you have to understand what's coming in, check it, double check it, make sure everything adds up and is going where it's supposed to go. And then you have to facilitate getting that to where it is. So those types of jobs that take your brain power and switch it into kind of a different realm creatively, because after you get into doing that for a period of time, you start seeing how you can potentially make it smoother, how you can make it go faster, how you can
Yeah.
figure out ways to, all right, this step seems to be a little bit inconvenient. If we just move
Mhm.
into this other step, we can just streamline that a little bit more. But those types of processes that I see from the different types of jobs that a creative might jump into just to be able to make some cash, get a paycheck, be able to survive and live now that you're out in the world, so to speak. That in and of itself, I would think plays into you being able to create these different programs within the fitness world that you're
Mhm.
putting out and you're offering up to your clients in terms of this is what I can help you do, and this is the process of that.
I would say that. Yeah, I would say it'll be a combination of things, everything we on work. I have read like they be saying if you're gonna go into entrepreneurship, it's best to start as a worker first, because the process, like what you're saying now
Yeah,
and
yeah,
everything. So you will know once you get into it, you will learn how to build that up for yourself as well when you start hiring people and everything like that. So yeah, so definitely those type of process give you a different way of thinking and looking at certain things and applying that to your business and throughout life as well.
exactly. So at the at that point, I'm saying I'm based on your timeline, I'm thinking
Mhm.
you're getting right around 30 years oldish.
Close when I started the fitness business, that is.
Yeah,
Yep, you're right. 20 about 27 when I started.
27. Okay. And did you just dive straight into having your own business, or did you work in a gym or a fitness center when you're starting
No.
that? Or what did that look like from your perspective?
Okay, great question. So when it started, like I said, I was still at Levi's at the time. Really thinking about doing it until one said, "We doing all this working out. You should just look into doing training." And I said, "This is what I could do."
Yeah.
Looked at it and said, "Yeah, okay, I'm gonna go into it." So it started from there. Just to give you a quick background story on that. But going into it and so forth, that was my thing. I was like, okay, I wanted to least. I always wanted to, my mind was always to do it on my own, to be an entrepreneur.
Yeah.
But I got a story of that of being creativity, of going back into the elementary as well. If we want to go back to that, but yeah, going into it, I wanted to like, okay, let me first work at a gym, get my feet wet, to
Okay.
get some exposure, get some experience, people knowing me and stuff like that. So let me find a gym to work at. Now this is like what 2013 when I started my business. So like say early 2013, because it started in April. So early 2013, I was looking for places to work. And at this time in Mississippi, one of us being one of the most fattest states, so forth. So it wasn't really a lot of gyms around at the time.
Okay.
That now it's more gyms. It's starting to change around now, but still a ways off. But at the time, we were hardly any gyms around. So the places that I was applying to wasn't hiring, or it just wasn't a lot of them around anyway. So I was forced into starting on my own until I called the YMCA, and YMCA stated like we don't hire trainers, but we take you on as an independent contractor, and
Okay.
as well as you kind of in a partnership or sponsorship in a sense,
Yep.
whatever you represent us, but you work independently for yourself. Everything is, so the deal was if as long as you a member yourself, so I had to pay my own gym membership. And the people that I trained had to be members as well. 100% of the proceeds, go to me. You know what I'm saying?
Okay.
So they weren't
Yeah.
worried about what I charge and all that stuff like that. So as long as that was in place. So
Yeah.
that's where it all started right there from. Next World Fitness was born from there. And so I had, like I said, I was forced into doing it right off as an entrepreneur and everything, learning the ropes and everything from there.
Yeah. Yeah. That
Mhm.
again, it's fascinating to me because I'm getting to see how your brain is working even more so with these different moves. And one of the things that I want to point out to the listeners is that you don't have to have a whole lot of money in your pocket to go out and start being the entrepreneur that you want to be. You just said you went to your local YMCA and just linked up in that way, right? They said, we're not going to hire you, but we'll let you be the independent contractor. You have your membership, your clientele has their membership, and then whatever you make on top of that, you keep. So just that ingenuity, that desire to do something that you want to do within your spirit, your heart, to help others.
Mhm.
You didn't have to have a whole lot of money to do that. You just had to have enough courage and enough thought to be able to go in there and say, "Hey, I want to do this." You ask the question. And I tell people all the time, there is no wrong question. The
Yeah.
only wrong question is the fact that you don't ask the question. Because if you don't ask, you never find out anyways. So that's another aspect that I wanted to point out to the listeners in terms of a thought process that led to you being able to do what you're currently doing. And you mentioned it, and I would like to just draw that line back to when you were little. You mentioned something about entrepreneurship
Right.
back early on. And I'd like to, if you don't mind, go into that just a little bit so we can get a picture of how that plays forward.
Yeah. So that would, and like I said, again, with the creativity, it started young and the entrepreneurship started for me, hence the me charging for to write my friends letters for they to their girlfriends and so forth. So that was entrepreneurship as well.
Yeah.
But before then, I was in elementary school and so forth. And my auntie Bunny, she rest in peace as well. She used to sell like for the church, which is her brother, my uncle,
Yeah.
and
Yeah.
everything. She used to sell stuff out of her trunk and everything after service is over.
Okay.
Zebra cakes and juices and all that stuff like that out of her trunk. And then she also was that icy cup lady or the lady that you go around the
Okay.
corner
Yeah.
and everything, get food and stuff like from. So she was
Yeah.
selling stuff like that, doing it and everything outside of her trunk and at her house. So me growing up around her and stuff like that, 'cause Jay, he's kind of like a brother slash cousin to me. He's my cousin, but he's like a brother to me as well and
Yeah.
everything. That's her son. And used to be over her house a lot. So I used to see that all the time. Fast forward going from there, seeing that all the time, I seen like we had like some 3 cent bubble gum at the gas station.
Okay.
And I'm like, something popped up in my head, like I can get all this gum and sell it at school and
Yeah.
everything like that.
Yeah.
So that what I did. I bought all that gum. I don't know, like whatever my mama dad gave me at the time and everything. Bought all the gum and was telling people at the school and everything. And I was selling for a quarter and everything.
Okay. Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? So I was making way more than a 3 cent back and everything
Yep.
like that stuff like that. So up until we got to a time, I was like, Mama, I got it. I don't need no lunch money or anything like that or anything like that. Or whatever little stuff, little snacks you want to buy at the school and everything. I was like, oh, I got it and everything. Up until the time when the kids start knowing where I got the gun from, like, oh, he getting it for so and so stuff. Like at the time, I didn't realize that it's supply and demand. I got it right now versus you going to the gas station to get it. But at that, I thought I was found out, and then I just stopped after that. But that was the first time that I actually started getting a taste of being an entrepreneur there.
And being able to make some extra money for yourself. as well. And figuring out the fact that it's costing you 3 cents, but you're
Uh-huh.
turning around and selling it for a quarter,
Right.
which as a little kid, quarters can be a lot of money, but
Yeah.
yet it's not too much on the parent or somewhere else
Yep.
within the family or environment that you could get a quarter.
Right.
So yeah, I'm glad that you brought that up because that going back and being able to see that mentality as a young kid and having that ingenuity to figure that out real quick because not everybody's able to do that. Not every kid is able to start looking at money and finances in that young of an age to be able to realize I can start making money right now. Like I don't have to wait till I get older and get a job and be working 9 to 5 or however many hours a week. And again, too, it's that inspiration of the family
Yeah.
unit that you're in, doing those different things after church or whatever. And when she would do that, would you have all day services? Is that
My uncle, he's pretty long-winded.
okay? Yeah.
So
So you need a little snack. Need a little snack
yeah,
to get to the end of
right, definitely. They said he's still in the depth. They say he don't shorten it down some, but yeah, back then he was pretty long-winded. So we getting out like 2 or 3 o'clock and everything like that. So it's way past lunch and all that stuff like that. So,
Yeah, I understand what that's like from my grandfather on my mom's side was a minister, a Southern Baptist minister in East Tennessee. And so a lot of times they'd have all day service.
yeah,
They'd start in the morning, then they'd stop and they'd have dinner on the ground, that kind of
yeah,
thing. And then once they finished that, they'd have afternoon service and then they'd have dinner again and then have evening service. So I can relate to the long services type situation a little bit. So let's fast forward back up to you're working, starting to get some clients coming in through the Y scenario. You've got your business
mhm.
going. And at that point, are you starting to see that there are more needs in other areas to be able to provide that service, or how is that starting to look like it's going to evolve?
It was different. Like when I first got my certification and so forth, I thought, okay, as soon as I get this certification, and as soon as I like, oh, I'm a trainer, clientele gonna get it, gonna start coming out the woodwork.
Yeah.
But it didn't really happen like that. You got to really go out there and
Yep.
just really grind for them and stuff like that.
Yep.
In that evolution and everything, I was brand new because, like I said, I wanted to really get the experience and exposure at an actual gym working with somebody and so forth. I was forced into finding my own clients and stuff like that, having to learn sales and stuff like that. So that wasn't really something I was my strong suit. The strong suit was really actually me training somebody, getting to a certain goal and stuff like that. So I would say in that evolution, learning process of sales, what to start my race as, because I was going up and down in race and stuff like that, figure that out,
Yep.
how to sell to somebody more effectively, because I was like more in the person in the aspect of selling the bells and whistles other
Okay.
than the actual results and
Gotcha.
everything like that. And so they were like, I learned that you gotta sell the results versus trying to say what all you got to
Yeah,
get them there. You know what I'm
for
saying?
sure.
So that kind of happened later on in that first and second year. So that was like really like a growing pain for me, really trying to figure out what to do, how to do, who I am as a trainer, finding my style, finding my lane and everything like that.
Yeah, right on. Good. That's definitely again those earlier processes of doing different things and understanding how to what works, what doesn't work, what you need to shift to. And I always like to say those are pivot points where you are doing one thing thinking this is the way to do it, but it's not doing what you're wanting it to do.
Right.
So within your head, you have to realize, okay, I've got to pivot here. I've got to change some things up in order to keep moving forward.
Yeah.
And that's what I'm seeing based on your storyline is you've had that consistently throughout the conversation today as well. With what you're doing one of the things that I want to bring up in terms of how this plays into creativity, how this plays into artistry, different things like that. It's especially if we're using one of the skill sets that you have of being the graphic designer, right? If we just single that out in and of itself to get this point across.
Okay.
Graphic designers basically sitting at the computer for 5, 6, 7, 8 hours a day,
Yeah,
especially if they're working for a company.
yeah,
So that type of lifestyle becomes sedentary, so to
yeah,
speak. Lack of movement, the body starts to get stiff after a while sitting in that chair. And I think it's key to get creatives out there who are doing stuff that is lacking a whole lot of mobility in their style of creativity,
yeah,
that physical health and activity, strength training, all of the healthy diet, all that type of stuff absolutely plays into their life long term unless they start to pay attention to those things. So I think that's a fantastic point of what you're doing and how you're trying to get creatives, get artists, musicians, actors, models, whatever, to realize that, hey, you need to have this over here, which is what you're doing, to complement what you're doing so that the longevity is there. Because if they don't, the body again is going to keep the score and it is going to start to lash out. It's going to say, hey, you've been sitting here all this time doing this graphic design work, and I'm stiff.
yeah,
I'm tired.
yeah.
It's hard for me to get up and get down the stairs, all those different things. So I think that's a key thing to point out for the listeners is that the way that you're coming as a coach, a trainer, a support system for their creativity, you figured out that what you can do is you can provide this service to be able to get them to better health so that their skill sets and their artistry can have a good life, long life. They can do that for a long period of time. What are some of the things that you're looking at in terms of maybe shifting some of your focus now more into working with creatives? What are some of the things that you want them to realize why it's important to work with somebody like you or being physical, active, looking at your diet, all those types of things?
Oh, I would say if they wanted to definitely increase that longevity in this field and also not only increase that longevity in the arts and entertainment world, but also enhance their artistry as well
Yeah.
and stuff like that. I think we get there. I'm a victim of it too as well. We kind of get boggled down in our work so much and stuff like that, and then we negate the health aspects and stuff like that, thinking that I got to do this and me not really focus on the health and stuff like that as much because this got to get done, but
Right.
not realizing that the health is what helps to get that done plus more on
Yeah.
everything. Being that I know how to I understand being a creative as well. I understand the grind and hustle and thought process and the work and dedication that it comes to doing it. But I also do understand that how to navigate being healthy and fit around it so that they can do more of what they love at a high level as well. So that's what I would say for the most part. And why or how why I believe they should be able to work with me in that aspect. Being that they come, like you were saying, even if they're not a graphic designer, they sitting down writing something. They on a tour, on the tour bus or something like that. They always come to sitting down and so forth. So it's a lot of them not being really traveling so much, got abandoned, hectic schedules and so forth. So they're not able to get to a gym in a certain way that they would like to or could be able to. And also eating definitely atrocious because you got studio food that's around you and
Yeah,
everything. And all, you constantly on the road, so you are always eating out restaurants or fast food and stuff like that. So I can help navigate it in a more way to make it more conducive to them and also efficient in a way that they still can get in and still do their job at a high functioning level.
exactly. Exactly. And two, I think the one of the cool things about what you're doing in terms of shifting to a point of being able to do this online for people versus having to
Mhm.
be right there next to you in the gym, that kind of thing. Being able to create those
Right.
types of processes can allow those
Mhm.
touring artists or musicians to be able to have your expertise right there at their fingertips with just their cell phone if that's all they've
Definitely.
got, right? Or the computer or the green room, one of the monitors or TVs that they have in the green rooms or on the tour bus, any of those types of things. Like you don't
Mhm.
have to be physically there with them, but they can get the information and knowledge that you have instantaneously. And it can
Right.
be just another expenditure built into the tour or what they're doing. And you can go right along with them basically in their pocket. They got a
Right.
phone,
There you
you can
go.
be right there in their
There you
pocket with them.
Yeah, pretty much we all got a phone. If we don't got a phone, we got some kind of smart device that we seeing some kind of social media on or doing some kind of contact on, like an iPad or tablet. So pretty much I'm where you at, or if you want to do it on the computer, you know what I'm saying? Yeah, I'm wherever you go.
Yeah, exactly. With what you're doing with Next World Fitness, are there some specific things that you're seeing that eh, you're thinking of that sets you apart from just the trainer down the street at the gym, that type of thing, outside of the online thing? I think that's a huge element of what you're doing. Are
Mhm.
there any other aspects of what you're doing that you feel are
Uh,
different?
I would say the attention to detail,
Okay.
not on everything, and being a creative, wanting stuff a
Yeah.
certain way
Yeah.
and right and stuff like that. I would say that sets me apart. And also too, I don't focus on. I would try to tell people that I am a results driven fitness coach and trainer. And so with that said, I'm not just getting you to a goal. I'm getting this. I'm integrating fitness into your lifestyle or health and fitness into your lifestyle. So that's what I would think that sets me apart the most. I'm not only just saying eat this, do this workout, and you good, and we get to the goal 6 months to a year, and that's it. No, I'm also telling you those things, but also giving you the mindset, different process, a way of going about things, and so forth. Actually teaching you and molding you into integrating this for a lifetime. So I want to be where if you leave me, I want you to come in better. I want you to leave better than what you came in when you first met me. So we're not longer coaching or training anymore. You don't learn some things that you can be able to keep this thing going for a longer term to come instead of when you leave, you just stop doing everything and then everything go back to the wayside.
Exactly. And that's
Mhm.
fantastic. That's fantastic. Them understanding that you're with them for the long haul, so to speak, and you want that to integrate into their lifestyle rather than whether it's maybe just for if it's an actor, maybe it's just for one movie, right? You want them to have that mindset of now take this, use this for every other movie that you're going to end up doing because
Right.
it that physical health, physical well-being is going to allow them to be able to do more movies, be able to do more shows. If they're touring
Right.
artists, they're going to be able to have longer tours, that type of thing. And also, too, it plays into the mental health aspect. And I want to bring that part up as well, that when when you feel good because your body feels strong and you've got good food going in your body, that changes the physical chemistry of the brain also.
Right.
So it's working with the body as a whole rather than just certain elements of it. And that allows the creative, the artist to be able to maybe work through some of that depression that they experience. Because at a certain point, even if it's just business related, right? If it's just business stuff that they're dealing with, it's, man, I don't want to do this stuff. I want to be just doing the creative stuff. I don't want to have to
Mhm.
do the business part of it. But at some point, they have to get involved in the business side of it. And that may be the thing that was hard on their mindset. But if they're in physically good health and they've got good food going into their body that keeps that brain chemistry running on the or fine-tuned level to alleviate some of that mental pressure, that mental stress that comes into play as working artists and musicians and so on and so forth, actors, what have you. I want to kind of circle back to some of your own creativity and some of your own potential aspirations to move forward and keep exploring your own creativity. With the music that you're working on, whether it's just in the writing phase at this point in time, or if you're starting to put together the music with the writing, how do you see that playing into what you're doing currently and potentially expanding what you're doing currently?
Great question. So I guess you're saying like what I'm doing like currently, like how I'm in the writing phases of everything.
Okay.
Basically, I would say that let's see, I'm trying to see how I can answer this more better. All right, so with the writing and everything that I'm doing currently, so basically once I get to ah, let's see,
You fine,
once
just
if
come
I
on with it.
all right,
Come on with it.
repeat the question so I can get it going better. Repeat the question for me again.
So, what I want to understand is with
Mm,
going back into your own creativity, if you're
mm,
in the stage of just writing or you've already started putting music together with it,
mm.
how do you see that playing into potentially what you're doing now with the next World Fitness? Or do you feel like you'd be able to go off and do this as a completely different scenario? Do you see them integrating or do you
Right.
see them as
So
separate?
that definitely integrate because like it's well and your introduction and so forth. And what I'm looking to do, I'm looking to blend both the fitness and entertainment world together
Yeah.
in a sense. The stuff that I write is gonna be Trey the person, but it's also gonna be Trey the fit artist too as well. So aspects, certain things. So most stuff I do is I say personality, life, rap, and so forth.
Yep.
So a lot of stuff is already gonna be motivating, thought provoking, stuff like that,
Nice.
empowering, uplifting,
Yep.
stuff like that, and then experience. So a lot of that, and then it's then fitness related too as well. So I
Okay.
might put interject fitness and stuff like that into it in that sense. So that would be where I can say I'm bridging the gap between the two. So integrating it into that, like I said again, is putting the fitness in with the entertainment aspect of things and stuff where I do that. So trade a fit artist, maybe I might make some songs and stuff like that related to fitness and stuff like that under that moniker and
Yep.
putting that into the fold of Next World Fitness, as well as being my own standalone artist as Trey. That's I'm still working on how I'm gonna do tonight. I might just go self-proclaim as Trey,
Yep.
but yeah, and then have that kind of in a sense separate, but at the same time, it's still a part of me as well, and which would be interjected into my art and when I'm as I'm writing and so forth. So
Yep.
those aspects, I would say that's how I would like blend it. So it won't be like its own separate entity,
Okay.
but it's definitely gonna be into the network of what I'm trying to do under the umbrella of Next World Fitness as well.
Yeah. That's
Uh,
fantastic. That's fantastic because I'm sure you have your own vision of it, but what I'm seeing right now for you is that y- it could play into such a whole beautiful package. And with you being that perfectionist, right? You got that little perfectionist aspect to you. I see this beautiful package scenario of you've got the workout, you've got the motivation tied into it, and then you've got your own music that's tied
Mhm.
into the workout, that's
Right,
uplifting, that's encouraging them to go forward, go farther.
right.
Just that in and of itself, like I don't know of anybody that I've ever come across in my career across multiple industries of creativity. I don't think I've ever come up across anybody who's doing that type of thing where you're creating this fitness environment. But not only are you creating this fitness environment, you're also interjecting your own creativity into it with the music. A lot of times when you see fitness videos or different things like that have been put out, a lot of times
Mhm.
they're just licensing music that's already out there from
Right.
other
Yeah.
artists, and they're using that to inspire them. The
Right.
beautiful part of what I see you doing is integrating that in to where literally they are getting the whole you. They're
Right.
getting Trea Cotton across the board. That's the beauty of what I see you doing. And I encourage you to just keep moving in that direction, man. Keep keep fine tuning that, keep working in that mindset that you've already got of wanting to push that forward, to get them healthy, to get them motivated, to
Mhm.
keep them inspired,
Yeah.
right? Even with the music that you want to create. That's a
Yeah.
beautiful thing.
It's definitely like I said, you hit the nail on the head. That's something you don't hear in any genre, hip hop and stuff like that. The song that comes to mind, Kanye "Workout Plan."
Yeah,
So that was about the closest we get to it. J. Cole, and then David Banner. He had a song called "Work" or something like that. Those are about the closest to it on everything, but it's just one song. But I want to be where it's actually like an album, something
yeah,
like that
yeah,
dedicated to nothing but fitness. It's not, you know what I'm saying? It's not a quote unquote where, like you said, people have a license, they just get inspiration from this song. Oh, I like this song, gets me moving. But
yeah,
this song is actually talking about is for that particular purpose. We always have on Apple Music or Spotify, they got a workout playlist. But like I said, it's just a list of songs that's already out, like you said, but nothing totally saying this is a fitness, this is actually a fitness album or playlist or something like that or whatever. So
yeah,
yeah, I definitely that definitely where my mind going with that because I don't think no genre has taken it there. No, I definitely got some other ideas for it to expand on that as well, but they're just there's future goals, but you know what I'm saying. But once we get moving in that direction, those are like dreams and plans I have for not only my journey as an artist, but also integrating some of that into Next World Fitness as well.
yeah, for sure, for sure. Another key element that I want to bring up here too for the listeners as well, creatives that think that they've got to they got to have a record label involved, they got to have a studio involved, they've got to have a filmographer involved, they got to have a motion picture company
Mm-hmm.
involved, any of that type of stuff. You don't, because the way that you're thinking about it is going to keep all of that revenue, just that little boy who was selling them candies, right? Buying them
Yeah.
for 3 cents, selling them for 25. You're going to be able to keep all of that money within your own entity
Yeah.
so that you're recouping all of the most out of that. So even with once you get your lyrics wrote down, you send that off, do your own publishing with that. Once you get
Mm-hmm.
your music created, that underneath your own umbrella, and you start putting that in with your videos and whether it's just there's so many different ways that you can do it, but you don't have to have all of that, those outside influences that everybody thinks they need to have in order to make something happen and make it big. You don't have to have that. In 2024 and 2025, now that we're here, there's so much more opportunity for creatives to be able to make money, create their own thing, own their own thing, and not have some outside entity owning a part of them or owning all of them based off of a particular deal if they get caught up in. So being able to actually legitimately be the person who is in charge of your own future. You don't have to worry about somebody else being a part of your own future because you got that innovative spirit already inside of you to make this happen. And you're doing it. And I think it's a beautiful thing. And I want the listeners to be able to hear that within your story today, that it's possible to do it and not have to have other people involved to where the industries are telling you that's the only way you're going to succeed.
Yeah, most definitely. Even in like far as in the music wise, even into the fitness world too as well. Because some people think it just you gotta just work at an actual big box gym or something like that to really get there and stuff like that instead of doing it on your own.
Yeah.
Yeah, even with that, I should say. And it's just really about thinking outside the box instead of thinking of one way or going into that rat race thinking it's got to be in this path like the other person did it and understanding that your path gonna be unique from the next person who did it and so forth and it's following your own path and what works for you.
Yeah. That
Mhm.
was beautifully said. And I think that would be a great way to end today, right there with that, with what you said, it being your own path, being unique. And I'm going to throw one other thing in there that I like to end the episode with, and that's just be kind to your mind. All right. Trey, I appreciate you coming on and speaking with me.